I say that to say, like, players are already hardwired to be preparing in April. What this would give them would be a little bit of geographic freedom, but I don't know that I would trade this for a longer training camp. Like, I'd much rather have to do the stuff in the spring, because I think also from a team building standpoint, if you don't see each other until June, if you're one of these bad teams and you finish annually, like the first week of January, like me for 8 years of my career, if I didn't see those guys until June, I don't know how we get better. Are we going to talk about the devil?
Monticello, Utah. Hello.
Why?
I got a friend called Ray who lives in an area here called Lake Monticello.
Yeah.
But he calls it Lake Monticello.
Uh-huh.
So when are we going to get you over to Lake Monticello?
Uh-huh.
I said, hopefully not too terribly soon there, Ray. But no, Monticello, Utah is known for being the site of one of the sites of Route 666 that they had to change because all of the, quote, potheads were stopping and taking pictures of the Route 666 sign in Monticello, Utah. Pretty dope looking place if you look at it.
How do we know they were potheads?
This is Greenlight's 666th episode.
Jesus.
Come October, it will be 5 years, and the math adds up. 666 divided by 4.75, that's about 140 shows a year. Get you to about 3 a week. Devil's Sinkhole in Texas. It's a menacing, bat-infested pit surrounded by dump piles burned by prehistoric people. The guano it accumulated were at one point mined for fertilizer. That's one of these diabolical denominations, around our country here. And then in Utah, there's the Dirty Devil River near Poison Springs Wash Road.
Damn, that actually looks awesome.
Whose illustrious visitors included Butch Cassidy looking to hide out, and then Route 666, already referenced in the Southwest.
So you went
much.
You went real literal with this devil thing. I just wanted to ask you if you think the devil's real.
No, I don't. Nah, David Putty is as real as it gets in terms of the devil.
See, who's David Putty?
Seinfeld. Got to support the team.
Yeah, I don't watch that show.
Yeah. I think the devil is in hell, right?
Yeah.
It's really red and black and has horns.
Yeah.
And then if you're bad, you go to hell with the devil, and you got to be with the devil forever. And then if you're good, you go up above the clouds to heaven with God, who's this white guy, really old, with like long white hair and a beard. And then it's pretty chill up there.
It's chill. You're just in the clouds all day. There's no trees. There's no rivers to float. You just hang out in the clouds.
Yeah, with all of your, loved ones.
Yes,
that have passed
now,
before you.
What form are they in?
I think they're in their primes as you saw them.
Okay.
As you saw them, they're primes.
Like, if I get up to heaven and Bill Walton's like 11 years old.
Right. Right, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
no, Bill's going to be like 60. His arms are going to be up in the air, tie-dye T-shirt. It's going to be your perfect vision of Bill Walton.
There's no dispensaries up here. Like, what the fuck is this? Can I say hello somewhere?
Please.
Shibe Park, Pennsylvania. Hello. You ever heard of Shibe Park?
Shibe Park?
Shibe with a B.
Shibe Park. Mm-hmm. And then say the last part of it again?
Park.
And then after that, Shibe Park.
There's nothing after that.
All you said was Shibe Park.
Yeah, Shibe Park.
Okay.
in Philly.
In Philly.
It's in Philly.
Shibe Park. I'm not familiar.
So I wasn't either. Look it up. It's fucking gorgeous. It doesn't exist anymore, but it's an old ballpark. Okay, and I was looking at old ballparks this weekend, and I had no idea this one existed. Okay, so Shibe Park. The reason I found out about this place is on this day,
gorgeous,
in 1961, I think Dick Allen actually hit it out of the whole stadium, which was a big deal. It's 20th and Lehigh, North Philly, built in the early 1900s. Good location. Trolley ran through there, so that was a big deal. And they got it on the cheap because it was across the street from the smallpox hospital. You ever have to sell anything across from the smallpox hospital? Like, the owner was like, yeah, well, I mean, I'm not sure if our whole middle infield's going to get smallpox, but like, let's put it right across the street because it's cheap. The Athletics moved there in 1938. The Phillies played in the 50s and 70s there. It is a church now. And this is a really unique building. It was like French Renaissance kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
It was gorgeous, beautiful. Thousands watched from the surrounding blocks. Okay, like people, GA was wherever. You sat on signs, like 80 people would go on top of a rooftop outside of the outfield and sell tickets up there. So there were a lot of people watching the games that weren't even, that weren't even in the stadium. It was the home of the $100,000 infield. Who could forget that? Stuffy McGinnis was the shortstop. That's the equivalent of $2.3 million today. So baseball was not that popular. The Eagles played there too. There's a lot of history in this game, and now it's just a fucking ugly church.
Can you pull up the new church?
Yeah, it's not good.
The stadium has some Soldier Field vibes to it.
It does. Like, my point is, why ever get rid of these things, man? Like if they're gonna demolish a stadium.
Oh no! Look at that church.
It's hideous.
Oh no!
It's hideous. It's a mega church.
Oh,
The North Philly mega church
gosh.
that replaced the city's lost cathedral of baseball, Shibe Park. I just didn't know about this park, and if you live in Philly, you probably do know about this park, especially if you're older. And I think it's gorgeous. I cannot believe they ever tore this thing down. The coolest thing about it was when they had the last game, Philly people, man, they came in this place. They were leaving with the toilets, they said. Like, people were just leaving with stadium seats.
Yeah.
Urinals, like it was just people were running off with bases and shit like that. Like they were taking the stadium with them, and now it's a mega church. So
called Deliverance, the Deliverance megachurch.
That's my little history lesson for today. I was just looking at on this day in sports, and they said Dick Allen hit it out of Shibe Park. I was like, let me see how impressive that is. And then I went on this rabbit hole of these old stadiums. When they get rid of Soldier Field or whenever that is, or like whatever happens to a field like that, like I would vote just leave it up there and make it a city park.
Agreed.
Like all stadiums should become city parks. Now, if it's a stadium, if it's like Arrowhead, nobody's going to be able to access that park. It's like 2 hours away. But there's plenty of places that in sports they think about like just demolish this place. We're moving the stadium. Don't, man. You don't know what. When's the next time somebody's going to be like, hey, I just found out about this place called Soldier Field.
Yeah.
Like some kid in 2090 is going to be like, man, that was cool. Why?
And you could put plaques like in the Soldier Field Park. That's like Jay Cutler ran over some guy right
where
here.
This happened.
Yeah, exactly.
You can chill out and with your dog.
Right.
Where the catch happened. No, you can't because Candlestick's gone.
Yeah.
They just fucking demolished it. I don't even know what's there now. You know me, I like old stadiums. So this caught my eye. And just a reminder that like what doesn't seem that cool at the moment could look really cool in like 40 years. What happened to Candlestick Park?
It is now planned to be redeveloped into office space. As of January 2023, the developers faced setbacks and there were concerns about soil safety.
Oh, been there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Boy, have we.
You're going to need a phase 1 study on that, Reed, and then you need a phase 2 study after that.
I'm fucking throwing up phase 3.
You might want to throw in a phase 3 at Candlestick.
It's just sad to me. That's so sterile. The fact that like where this historic thing once happened, we don't even get a plaque. We just get a cubicle. There's going to be a cubicle there where the catch happened. Mm-hmm. That's sad.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah,
there's only so much dirt, though. Got to keep things moving.
There's a lot of dirt out there, dude.
Actually, that's a good point.
There's also a lot of dirt where Arrowhead is.
More dirt than you think out there.
Yeah, like what happened at Orchard Park, like the old stadium in Buffalo? Like, what are they doing now? It's sad. It just makes me big sad, Macon.
Speaking of
what,
as mentioned, we have lost Bill Walton.
That, like. I told Waylon last night before bed, because I was watching some Bill Walton videos. Like, who's that? I'm like, man, this guy, he was amazing. I was like, I just want to show you more stuff. I showed him eating the candle.
Yeah.
He's like, eat this candle? I showed him feeding, the Oregon duck popcorn, like all the stuff that's circulating around today. But the stuff I didn't show him is like also how outspoken he was on issues back in the day, and I'll show him that later. But like, or him taking liberty to task, during a national broadcast. Like he was just real, dude. He was real. He was colorful. He was entertaining. I think as soon as he died yesterday, you think about celebrity deaths, Chris Cornell always sticks out because of the tragic nature of how it happened. And you just imagine all this pain. And I was like, the first CD I ever bought was Soundgarden. And I was just, my mom took me to Plan 9 and we got Throwing Copper and the Soundgarden album with Super Unknown with Black Hole Sun and all that shit on it. And I was a huge Cornell fan, and I'll never forget where I was when he died. I was in Philly. I was getting ready to, I was alone. I was training for, it was a cloudy, rainy day, very, very appropriately. And sitting in my apartment in Fairmount and heard about Chris Cornell, and I was tore up about it. Bill Walton was on my short list of people I wanted on this pod. Mm-hmm. We had a picture that we were going to put up, and we had it up for a while. It was like, wanted Bill Walton. And that's never going to happen. And that makes me sad. But I never felt sad yesterday. I was sad for Bill, obviously, because, and I'm sad for everybody because, like, he's one of those people, like, if he could live as long as a Greenland shark, we'd all be better off, right? Like 70 years is not long enough for somebody like Bill. But the amount of joy and vibrancy that he brought, like, that's what you think about first, even in his passing. I think about, like, he made people happy in his passing, not because he's gone, but because you get a whole day, Memorial Day of all days, which is a totally different thing. But, like, it's a holiday, and we're all fixated on this holiday. And by the way, I hope for all the veterans that knew somebody that lost somebody, or Gold Star families, I hope you had a very peaceful weekend. You know, and a reminder to people and athletes next year around that, like, if you're wishing people a happy Memorial Day, you shouldn't include the active duty troops, like, and thank them. It's a Memorial Day. But on Memorial Day, with the NBA playoffs going on and fuck nothing for football going on, Bill dominated the day. And I just couldn't find a person on the timeline that didn't have something to share about Bill. And I didn't share anything about Bill because I have this outlet where I can talk about it. And I just want to talk about Bill. Listen, I didn't grow up with Bill. I didn't grow up with Bill in my living room. But as soon as he passed yesterday, and this is long overdue, I picked up his book. And I'm like 4 or 5 chapters in now. And, you know, I know a lot about Bill, but it's incredible the stuff you learn about him. You know, when you think about where he went and who he was, not just to be a great basketball player, 38, 39 surgeries, operations on his feet, lower extremities because he was born with a congenital defect that made it really hard to do what he ended up doing at a very high level. He also had the speech impediment. In this book, it kind of details, I think, what makes him so interesting under the surface, which is that he had, like, a relatively tragic career. You know, like, he laments all the time he missed. The injuries kept an MVP from being one of the greatest NBA players to ever play the game. I mean, he's still voted as one of the greatest NBA players to ever play the game, but of his 14 seasons, I think he said he missed over half of those seasons with injuries. And, you know, I know he had regrets about his time in Portland, how it ended. And I there was just a quote I saw in The Athletic today, and he was talking about going back to Portland to kind of reconcile some of that stuff. And he said it was very sad. I always try to self-reflect. And when you're living a life that is on stage, on camera, out in front, the minute it gets quiet, that's when the true answers come to you, when it's too late. And I think any athlete can relate to that. Any person who's in a washing machine of scrutiny, expectation, stress, adulation, success, failure, like, there's no time to reflect. And I think, like, Bill put that so succinctly, like, as an athlete, it's so hard to figure out who you are while you're playing the game and what you stand for and how you feel. And I think what's so interesting about that is, like, I always felt like Bill was so much more than an athlete. And that's why I admired him so much. I'd like to think of myself as more than an athlete. I've always liked to think of myself as more than an athlete. Like, I want to live my life. Kind of like the stuff we were talking about earlier. Like, life is more than just about, like, what you do. And I think for Bill, like, life was a big playground. And that included basketball. And he was steadfastly committed to it. But he never denied himself the opportunity to go out and do the things that you would do if you were a normal person. And that to me humanized him so much and made him so normal and larger than life. You're talking about a guy who went to 850 Dead concerts, 850 Grateful Dead concerts. He played the drums with the Grateful Dead at the Pyramids in 1978. I don't know that an athlete's ever done something cooler. Like J.J. Watt on stage with Zach Brown. Nowhere.
It's close.
It's nowhere close. But like, this guy has just done it all. Like he was 14 playing basketball with grown men. When he was 17, he was asked to go over to play in Yugoslavia for 3 months. He left high school and traveled the world and going to UCLA, getting to know John Wooden, and the way he described John Wooden, I also think is telling. If we're looking for some lessons from Bill's life, like John Wooden's one of his heroes, right?
He loved him some John Wooden.
Loves John Wooden. John Wooden and him couldn't have been any more diametrically opposed back in the day, ideologically. But Bill loves people. Bill loves life. And Bill's had some strong stances, but it seemed like anybody he would encounter, he'd give him a chance. And I felt like yesterday, no matter where you stood on the issues or where you stood, like a lot of people would like to boil Bill down to his ideologies or smoking pot or fucking. Everybody loves Bill Walton. Bill Walton can make anybody smile, and he made me smile for a long time. And I just think he kept the main thing, which is life. And that's why I admire him so much. And obviously, like a lot of his stances have turned out to be the right ones. Protesting the Vietnam War, being a proponent of the civil rights movement, speaking up for his black teammates. Like, to me, he's a hero. And what made him a hero was he was a critical thinker. He was an independent person. And he had a great upbringing. Like when he talked about his upbringing in this book, I'm thinking about swiping all the TVs out of my house because Bill Walton's parents, his mom specifically, he pleaded for I guess years to buy a TV. And she did some research and came to the conclusion that they were not buying a TV.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think he had a library card. And this guy just got lost in books. And his imagination is what made him special. And, him talking about stories about when he was a kid to Jimmy rig a basketball hoop together. They didn't have a lot of money. Like, I think they found a basketball hoop, put it together. He rigged a spotlight at night so he could play at night and listen to his favorite announcer call Lakers games. And he was talking about Chick Hearn. And one of the quotes he had in the book was, and he would listen on his transistor radio. What he had, his library card, transistor radio, a Jimmy rig basketball hoop, and a spotlight. And he'd go out at night and play while the Lakers were playing with his radio on and imagine, and
while being incredibly shy and reserved and going through a monster stuttering issue.
The stuttering issue, overcoming that, the congenital defects that he had, but I don't think he could have done it without the upbringing of his parents, the way he was brought up, the way it was described. And his big imagination, his just love for life. Like I think everything excited him, and he'd sit out there and play basketball with the radio on, and he talked about Hearn, and the quote was this: comforting solace that Chick was your best friend. The creativity, the excitement, the intensity, the exuberance, the vibrancy, the joy, the openness, the honesty, the personal touch. That's how he made me feel as an adult.
For sure. He also had an incredible way with words, as you just demonstrated. I mean, he always talked about how he was ricocheting through the world, and he would introduce himself all the time as Bill with 2 L's. Like he just had a weird way of thinking about things. That was always interesting, entertaining, interesting. Kind of just felt like your fun Uncle Bill. Yeah,
on a day like today where we talk about like, hey, waking up, not being interested in anything.
Yeah,
like I going forward, I would like to find my inner Bill Walton. And some people listening are like, Chris, you kind of already found it. But I like, there's another level to that. It's not just smoking pot, loving music, and going out and trying to have as much fun as you can while you're on this fucking rock spinning around. Like it's also about finding joy in everything. It felt like he found joy and exuberance in everything. The way he talked about the books he read growing up, the coaches he had, the opportunities to play basketball and listen to the radio, like teammates, Bill Russell, like just the passion he had for the most mundane topics. And those aren't mundane topics necessarily, but like the passion Bill had for mundane topics was unmatched. And I think that's what makes a great media member and a great person. Like, first off, like the people you love are the people that when they walk in the room, they're excited about something. They make you excited about the thing they're excited about because they are truly champing at the bit to get starting doing whatever this mundane task is. In their minds, it's the greatest thing in the world. And I think that's what Bill was like. And I don't do that enough. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think any of us do it enough. But I look at, coincidentally, on a day like today when you're like, fuck, I don't care. Like, you know, nothing's exciting me. What would Bill Walton do?
Yeah.
You know, he'd be excited about anything that came across his desk if he had a podcast. And I just look at Bill and I'm like, if I could be more like Bill, I think Bill had it figured out. Like, I think of all the athletes that have ever played American sports, legends, icons, find me one person that lived life without imposing boundaries on themselves more than Bill Walton. I can't. I mean, he did not let basketball define him, and he was terrific and steadfastly committed to that craft.
Yeah, and live totally authentically, it would seem, as we can.
It would seem
judge
like,
from afar.
if I didn't know Bill Walton, maybe I'd be disappointed, but I doubt it because Dave Pasch, the guy and I always appreciated Dave watching those two because I always wondered, like, does Dave kind of hate Bill?
Mm-hmm.
Because Dave's dry and he knew how to play off him.
It was perfect.
You know, which I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But like, it's pretty illuminating in his passing to see Dave sending those text messages out.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that Bill on air was just like Bill over a text message, but that Bill wrote in paragraphs on text messages.
Yeah.
5-word
Which
paragraph.
I love.
Amazing.
Which is something that I have dabbled with, and now I'm going to do more.
Yeah.
I'm going to be writing my text messages like Bill Walton the rest of my life.
There's
One sentence, you need some space, but it's also easier to read text messages.
It is.
Yeah, 100%.
There's a pretty recent Bill doc that you should check out if you haven't, and I'm sure it's you've seen it because it's been making the rounds today. But his quote is, "I'm not into being remembered. I learn from yesterday. I dream about tomorrow, but I try to make today my masterpiece. Try my best to be better, to do better, and to do more."
For people, and he always talked about doing things. He talked about when he wakes up in the morning, just sprinting to go make somebody's day better.
Yep.
And like, I would think that was authentically who he was.
Yeah.
And I can say that some days I don't wake up thinking like that. You know, you think about yourself, you think about your problems, you think about this job sucks some days or that. I don't know if Bill thought that way. And especially when you and he talked about this on the Dan Patrick Show a long time ago. And I think when he talked about this on the Dan Patrick Show, it's pretty open of him to say this, but he was like, I considered suicide. I was contemplating suicide. The pain was so bad. That was the one thing. He never let us in on that. Like, I think you think of him as this mascot of happiness and exuberance and joy and like a lust for life that's unmatched, but he was also spending months at a time on the ground because of the pain. And he never let us into that. And the regrets that you see bubble to the surface every once in a while, like, I think deep down he was tortured like everybody else. Everybody's got regrets. Everybody has hardships and tragedies that happen in their life. For him in his athletic career, it was just the what if. And I can so relate to the what if, not on his level, but like every athlete has a what if. What if these little two things go differently? I can tell you I beat myself up over things that should be framed in the context of success. And I can only imagine somebody like Bill Walton who rightfully probably felt cheated, you know, having those injuries and getting to enjoy success, but never having it fully realized. And he never projected that. I've never admired somebody so much that I didn't know in the media, you know? And we'll never get to have him on the show, but the best we can do, I think, is like take what Bill was about and try to live that way, you know?
Absolutely.
Listeners, media members, like people, if everybody was like Bill Walton, I think we'd be a lot better off.
A lot better off. And we saw what?
And the ceilings would be higher.
Way higher. We saw what? A couple hundred stories on social media yesterday of like, here's my Bill Walton story. Here's my Bill Walton story. Not one of them didn't show him going overboard, whether it's a time limit, like we had 11 minutes for this show, he gave 20.
Mhm.
We had 60 minutes, he gave 90. Or he called me back after 2 minutes because he remembered one more thing that he wanted to tell about that story. He, left me a voicemail and said this and did that. And he talked about how he convinced my dad to go do this surgery. Like every single story we saw, he went above and beyond for this person who asked them to do, something that they thought was going to be a big ask, and he always delivered.
What would Bill do? That might be the new mantra in here. And listen, I'm not claiming to be somebody who like collected his basketball cards, and I hadn't read his book till yesterday, but from afar, I always just admired him. The pot thing's important too. Like he's the first athlete that was synonymous with marijuana usage. Like I can't think of too many other guys back in the day
who were so publicly.
Yeah. It's just another example of somebody just being open and being like, this is who I am. I'm not going to hide this. First off, you're playing drums with the Grateful Dead in Egypt. I think people know what's going on. But I think also with the Grateful Dead, it was pretty interesting that he would be drawn to those guys because I think Jerry had a really tragic life. There's a lot of sadness under, all that raucous noise and excitement and great music, like, and the exuberance again. But like Jerry Garcia, his dad drowned when he was growing up on a river.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of stuff that you wouldn't, you go to a Grateful Dead show, it's bright colors, but it's also the steal your face, the skulls, the presence of death, the finality of this whole experience it's acknowledged.
Yeah.
But it's also, to me, the Grateful Dead is like, life is hard, it's tragic, but fuck, is it fun? And only if you live it all out. And that's what I thought Bill was all about. And that's why he was the perfect deadhead, because reading about Bill Moore and knowing what I know about like the challenges he had growing up, there were probably some dark times for him. And there were dark times later in his life where he talked about contemplating suicide, and sharing that with Dan Patrick and putting that in the book. That took a lot of balls. But again, it's him being open. And I believe every bit of it, because it wasn't like he was trying to project that publicly. I mean, he kept it close to the vest and then he shared it. And so I'm just so glad we got 71 years of Bill Walton. And some people live to be 130. I wish it would have been him. But he had a great run. And rest in peace, Bill Walton. We're never going to get him on the show.
Well,
we get AI Bill Walton.
Probably.
What would he think about us having AI Bill Walton on the show? That's a bummer. There's some people that have passed that I'm like, man, it would have been cool to have on the show, or it would have been cool to meet him. Like Bill's up there.
There also needs to be a universal age that you hit where you're eulogized while living,
I agree.
And maybe that's what that documentary was a few years ago. But once you hit, like, I don't know, pick the age, however you think about this phrase, give you your flowers.
No question. The Albert Brooks fake funeral thing, which is less sneaky.
Yeah.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think about it all the time, like people that I should say things to. You always hear people that you're like, I wish I had said this, I wish I had said that, and you're like, I'll say that.
Yeah.
And then you get older.
Yeah.
And you don't say it.
Yep.
And you become more closed. And somebody like Bill, I doubt he left anything unsaid.
Right.
And so it's fuck, dude. I didn't even know he had cancer.
I know.
Nobody did. It didn't seem like anybody. He had friends that were like, hey, Bill. And if that ever happens to me, you won't know about it.
I figured.
Because I'm not going to the doctor.
Yeah.
I won't know about it either. Okay. So anyways, it's sad. But again, it's like some eulogies, you give them with a smile because the guy he was sunshine, dude.
Yeah, and they make you, those kinds of people make you want to be better, do better, and
be like him.
It's just a matter of how long it stays with you.
Yeah.
And maybe we do need a daily reminder.
Yeah, we need to get something Bill up here. We had the wanted, kind of deal. And condolences to Dave Pasch, because I almost hit him up this morning trying to have him on the show, and I didn't want to bother him. Like, not that he would have come on the show. Like, everybody's asking Dave to probably do something in the media, but I just can't think of anybody more that had a connection with him outside of his family than that guy. Like, it's got to be like half of him's gone,
I mean, 90% of the clips we saw, like, this was the best of Bill Walton. Dave was right next.
He deserves a lot of credit for bringing out the best in Bill too, because you couldn't put a lot of guys in that. Who would struggle the most with Bill? Nance?
Al?
Gus?
Al.
I don't know. Well,
I think Nance might be okay with him.
I think Gus would be successful with Bill.
Man, Bill called a White Sox game one time.
Yeah.
A tie-dyed T-shirt.
Yeah.
Those clips going around yesterday.
He licked the his play-by-play guy's tie.
Yeah,
that thing.
Bro, he said, I couldn't be a catcher. I'm much better at getting high than that came up in the video when Waylon was watching. He didn't even know what he was talking about, so that's good. Hey, y'all. Greenlight has official merch, like this hat right here, or like the one on my head, this dad hat. Love this hat. I'm not even a dad hat guy, but this thing fits great. This hat right here fits great. We've got hoodies. We've got by the way, this hoodie's like super comfy. I mean, it's like soft, plush. It's not the type of hoodie that's going to get stiff with one wash. And the shirts too, because like I'm a big comfort guy, okay? You got like this white shirt here. You got the shirt with the logo, the Abbey Road looking logo with Dr. Fax smoking presumably a blunt, Kyle carrying Cowboy Reed, Macon dribbling a basketball, which I've never seen him actually do, and me carrying a football. And then you've got the black shirt here too with the logo. So stickers, hit the link in the description in the video, below the video actually, and make sure to tag us on social media showing off your Greenlight merch. It's quality threads here, okay? Wouldn't do it any other way. Hey, I want to thank Austin FC for sending me some gear. They sent me a hat, they sent me a jersey.
Hold that bad boy up.
Yeah,
that's
bad boy up.
Clean. That's cream and mint.
Bro,
Yeah.
This is one of the nicest kits I have.
that really is good looking.
Yeah, it really is, and it looks like it's big enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be looking like Mahomes out here.
Yeah.
So shout out to Austin FC. All right, so on to the football. Let's get on to the football and rifle some of through some of these topics. There was a Tom Pelissero report, and it read, this is on X, end of OTAs, question mark? NFLPA is working to finalize a proposal to overhaul the offseason starting as soon as 2025, eliminating voluntary on-field work in the spring in favor of longer training camp ramp-up, with players reporting in mid-June to early July per sources. So I don't know, honestly, what the motivation here is. Probably coaches thinking that actually, I don't know if this is true, but ever since training camp changed, got a little bit easier. Anytime somebody got hurt, you'd have these old coaches who would be like, "That's because we don't work as hard anymore, and you're not as ready for the start of the season. You're not as ready for live bullets." Now, of course, I think a little bit of them can be right there, but I also think rest is good. Like I think there's a happy medium in here, somewhere in between. I do think that going from 0 to 100 miles an hour is tough. Like when you show up to the new training camps, you're out there in underwear, and even if you throw on the shells with just soft tops and the helmets, like there's a big change from that to pads. And I think that like the ideal loading period could be padded but less strenuous, so you can get out there in the pads. Don't need to do 5 live periods the first week. Like I would structure it like, hey, we get out there in underwear for a couple of days and then we get in the pads and we ease in the pads too. But right now it's kind of like there's this ledge from underwear to inside run. And to me, that's where you have your problems. And then a week later, you're playing in a game, basically. Like I can remember in the new training camps, I used to count a month before we had a preseason game of practicing. And now it's like, holy shit, we play in 10 days. And if you're doing that Hall of Fame game, like that's happening like that.
More like inside runs in your underwear.
Yeah.
When the bullets start firing.
Exactly,
huh?
dude. That's what, but a lot of soft tissue injuries, a lot of injuries that, people just aren't ready for the speeds and that sort. But that doesn't mean you need to throw the baby out with the bathwater, man. This is too much. June to July, early July. So you're going to have players on the 4th of July in training camp. Now, I know.
But deleting April, yeah?
Deleting April. But here's the thing. Here's the thing about April. Players are on the job all year. It just gives them the flexibility to be where they want to be. I think you could delete April and go mid-July. Like that, like mid-July would be fine. And that's kind of when I used to, I remember around July 15th, I used to leave Montana. I used to train up there and leave. But here's the problem. There's a dark cloud that hangs over a football player from probably late May to the minute they report to camp. I don't care where you are in the world. You could be in the most beautiful place. But if you're worth a shit, your mind is on the game and your mind's on your job and the expectations and the pressures. And some of you is like, let's just get it going. But you also know that your body's not going to last. Now you're talking about if you showed up in June, July, August, September, I've already counted. October, November, December, January, February. So 8 and some change for some of these good teams, 8 months on, 4 months off for some of these good teams. I don't know how anybody would repeat, let alone get back there. And I know like some organizations are really good and they're going to adjust and that sort of thing. But if this is the case, I just hope the NFL doesn't get duped on this thing. Because like I said, in April and May and March, I was working hard, getting ready for whether it was OTAs, and I always showed up to everything voluntary.
Everything.
Everything. Everything. Like I was there.
What percentage of your teammates did?
A high percentage on the bad teams. And then when you get on the good teams, there's a lot of players that are like, man, I'm good. We're good.
I know what voluntary means.
Yeah, I know what voluntary means. But when you're in St. Louis, nobody really has the latitude to do that. And when you're a high draft pick and the team's bad, you don't want to be like, oh, I'm skipping, So I say that to say, like, players are already hardwired to be preparing in April. What this would give them would be a little bit of geographic freedom, but I don't know that I would trade this for a longer training camp. Like, I'd much rather have to do this stuff in the spring, because I think also from a team building standpoint, if you don't see each other until June, if you're one of these bad teams and you finish annually, like the first week of January, like me for 8 years of my career, if I didn't see those guys until June, I don't know how we get better. I don't know how we get better as a group. I don't know how we get closer as a group. And you could say, hey, the longer training camp guys are going to get closer. But we got so close. Even if training camp was 3 weeks long, you're in a hotel with somebody for 3 weeks. You're working from 7 in the morning till 10 at night every day for 3 weeks. You got a day off or two mixed in there. And now with the new CBA, you do have some days off sprinkled in. But I do think it's too much. I think when you look at it like it's an 8-month endeavor for these teams that are going deep in the playoffs, it's just too much. It's just too much.
Do you think the science is the real reason behind this?
Well, I'd like
soft tissue.
I'd like to see the science. If you could show me the science, maybe. But the people I've talked to in the league have said some variation of, God, I hope the NFLPA doesn't get duped on this one. I don't know what the bargaining chip would be. Like, what are we trying to avoid here?
Well, so
now we're talking about 18 games and we're talking about longer training camp.
So the NFLPA's consulted medical and performance experts, and basically their thinking is that if you get more time off after the end of the season until the first time you report, but is that worth that extra 2 months, month.
But
where
players aren't going to take that
Yeah,
time.
exactly.
That's the point. So I would just I wish we could talk to a medical expert that mocked this up. And obviously, another standpoint here is like, I don't know what the league's doing, because the league's never doing what they say they're doing. They're like, this is why we're doing it. There's always a reason, and it's usually green, right?
Right.
So I don't know what that is. I don't know if they've identified something in the sports calendar where they're like, hey, we can dominate June as well and July, like where, you know, the dog days of summer with baseball and that sort of thing, because people cannot get enough of training camp stuff. You know, like I'll be sitting there hand up and watching one-on-one pass rush knowing it doesn't really mean that much as a fan. I'm gobbling it up. So I think there's probably a little bit of like, yeah, we don't need to dominate the news cycle. We already have the draft. We have free agency. We have, you know, all this stuff. We have all these tentpole events in the calendar that, hey, we can take off.
Schedule release.
Yeah, schedule release like that. That just happened.
Right.
So we're talking about May.
And for 3 days, everyone was freaking out about a couple matchups and then the schedule release videos.
I think they're thinking there's a longer period between football consumption now than there is if they do this, right?
Yeah.
Because nobody's paying attention to OTAs. Tell me something that happened in OTAs. Don't care. Somebody
it's like press conferences. That's about it.
Don't care.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about Justin Jefferson, Higgins, you know, wide receivers, whatever the flavor of the month is, every post free agency period. Somebody didn't get a deal. We're going to be talking about tags. We're going to be talking about, you know, all types of stuff. So those conversations are going to continue. I think maybe if you're looking at it from a consumption of football standpoint, they're looking at it like, hey, the minute June starts, if training camp's ramping up, we have only taken off May. Whereas now it's like the minute OTAs end, you wait until late July. So you're looking at a couple months, right? I don't want to assume the NFL's being the NFL here, but the NFL's always the NFL.
Maybe somebody's suing them on account of voluntary and mandatory. Guys are getting cut on account of voluntary stuff. And
that part's tricky, right? Because they say voluntary, right? And like
it's not.
It varies situation to situation, and when a coach cuts you, he don't have to show his work, right?
Right.
Like they just say, here's your
for
iPad.
Cause, yeah.
Like they don't have to show the math,
right.
But part of the math might have been that this guy wasn't at voluntary workouts.
Yep.
And another thing is, voluntary workouts don't always get you the best work for you. I used to always say this: voluntary workouts, I go and get worse, you know, like because all of a sudden I've been lifting alone, taking as much time as I need, running as much as I want, the sequencing of when I run, when I lift, like times a day. Some days I'm doing double days where I get up in the morning, run, lift, and in the afternoon I do some field work and that sort of thing. Like you are now on the team schedule. And the team schedule is dictated by the coaches frantically trying to install, you know, defenses and offenses and do things in their very bureaucratic way. When you're a player, you know when you're a veteran, you know what you need to do in the off season, and you go out and do it if you have the latitude to do it. But when you go back in the building, they sneak your lift in after practice. You got a meeting after the lift. Like, so what? Am I going to stop my lift halfway through, come back? I'm also sore because I've been doing a bunch of repetitions of movements that I'm really good at already, right? I've been hitting a sled all day. I'm going to take a summer-long break and have to build that back up. All that's doing is breaking my body down so I can't continue to build it up. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
It does.
You know, so I'm not saying
maybe you're coming around to this.
I might be coming around, but what I would say is the camp doesn't need to start in June. If you want to start 2 weeks earlier, that's what we did for a long time. You know, like guys survived. What you need to do is limit the collisions, right? Because that's how you mock up a practice. If coaches can be trusted to take care of guys and ease them into things properly, I think mid-July is okay. I think early July, after the 4th of July, as a washed-up retired player who never has to live by this code or this schedule, I could see how I'd come around on it. But as a player, I think the mental health aspect of it, and people are going to be out there like, dude, I never get a day off. But I just don't think you understand, like, you're in a washing machine so long and it's so violent and so stressful that guys need a little time to decompress. You could claim that other jobs and vocations need the same, but what we're talking about here is the NFL. Get with your unions.
Right.
I do think guys need some more time before they put pads on again, and it's time to go. Some of my favorite times were in July, even with that cloud hanging over my head. Time with my family in the summer. Think about your kids, spending time with your kids. That's another thing. When summer start for them? It starts in May.
Right.
Right. All of a sudden, you're going to have less summertime with your kids. Like, vets are not going to like this.
Yeah. Does it give you pause that Mark Davis's love child will be born during the NFL season this year?
So I have something to say about this. Dove. It's Dove.
It's either Dove or
he's past tense.
Who knows?
Well, I had no problem with Dove or Dove Kleiman. This is shoddy journalistic work. And also, by the way, it's not even Dove Kleiman. I'll tell you why in a second. Everybody who's online knows who this guy is. Well, they know his avatar. He's a cartoon.
He copied Field Yates.
Yes.
Yeah. He's got the little cartoonish little head.
And I hate to say it, but a lot of the aggregators, I get mixed up nowadays, but they're all very different, right?
Yeah.
You need to be careful when you're reading an aggregator's news and taking it as it was like awful announcing earlier. Has nothing to do with any of this, but awful announcing took Nick Wright out of context. Nick Wright said he praised Bill for 5 minutes as a player, and he said, and he might have been a better broadcaster, which is a compliment. Awful announcing frames it as, he wasn't a great player. He was a better broadcaster.
Yep.
People are quote tweeting it like crazy, like fucking moron, Nick, all this stuff. And, that's just the nature of aggregation. It's engagement farming now. Like, people are rage baiting. That's a big thing online. Hey, podcasting is hard. It'd be a lot easier if I just deleted my Twitter account. Like, can I do that? But the problem is now a lot of the places you go for your news are not giving you news. They are giving you something to engage with. And I think the problem manifests when people run with things that are rumors. And we've done that unintentionally before.
And we're right.
Yeah, you're right. The Bill Belichick thing.
Yeah.
No, I know. And everybody, all these Boston guys couldn't wait to jump down our case. And actually, we were doing you motherfuckers and Bill a favor because we were like, we're not going to tell you what we know is going to be true.
Yep.
Right? Because that's not my story to break. If you remember that whole thing. And some of you Goodwill Hunting looking motherfuckers were all up my ass and what happened. Okay. But the point is like, we don't want to, I didn't get into this thing to be an aggregator. The way the food chain works is, we're the people who talk to you, but then we need the information, right? So a lot of times you're going to be doing research in really unofficial ways, and you're going to be reading the timeline, trying to figure out what's going on. And the problem is like some of these aggregators, they let it loose and they let it fly. Like whatever, doesn't have to be true. This Mark Davis thing. What's the young lady's name?
Hayden Hoskins.
Hopkins or Hoskins?
Hayden.
Well, her baby daddy is Joey. It's not Mark Davis.
Right.
Presumably, young, good-looking guy without a bowl cut.
Maybe older.
Maybe older.
What
if Joey's actually really fucking old?
Yeah.
That would be hilarious.
Or his name's Joey. What if he's 14?
So the bottom line is, God,
Hayden Hopkins.
We've done a poor job explaining this, haven't we?
Yeah. So, well, there's a preamble. Stick with us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dove Kleiman, he's one of these aggregators, and there's this story going around that this young, some would call her a smoke show, is dating Mark Davis, and then we find out that she is with child, and so people are like, yo, it still works. And they're like, this gal bad, Mark, just who wouldn't at that age, but this girl bad. That's kind of like the whole thing, right?
Can I read you Hayden's statement?
Yes.
Reports of Mark Davis being the father of my child are wildly untrue. Of course, it was Dove's report. I was pictured sitting next to him at a game in 2022 and have endured false rumors of a romantic relationship since. I was just a guest, sitting in the owner's box with other friends. These continued media stories are negatively affecting what should be my happiest days. Joey and I are excited to welcome our baby in the fall. XX.
Yeah, so basically, she was photographed with Mark,
Near.
which I think is also it's a referendum on how much pussy everybody thinks Mark Davis gets. Because just because somebody's near you doesn't mean you're knocking them up, right? And then you get these aggregators coming around that are like, "Yep, this is the bloodline here passed down to." So it's not Dov, actually. It's not Dove or Dov. He actually sold his account. Okay, now he does have a checkered past. Like Dove had dove into this podcast's account. He had hacked into this podcast. It was the Game Day NFL. He had hacked these Game Day NFL guys' podcasts, and he was basically like using their podcasts to talk shit to other aggregators and like incite, I don't know,
Aggravated
aggregators. And so that was Dove. This is not Dove now because on December 6, 2023, last year, he DM'd me and he was like, "Hey, I'm selling my account. Like, any interest?" And I'm like, "No," but I had never thought about being an aggregator. But like, good luck with that. And so I know it's not him. It's just another layer to like, be careful what you're reading, because it's not even the guy that it's purported to be. It's a guy who sold his account to an aggregator. This person's name isn't even on it. And that's like social media today, and that's sports news now today.
They care less than Dove
They care less than Dove,
and they just want to mine, retweet,
engagement.
Exactly.
And what does Dove think about this? He must not care much, because he's handing the keys over to his his reputation. Selling. It didn't even change the name of it. It kept the brand. Your name is the brand. So I almost don't feel bad for him here, because like he has a history of this. And the way me and him met was because he attributed a clip of Ryan Russillo and Gronk saying something really of substance, and it went like gangbusters, and he didn't attribute it to Ryan. He attributed it to some other aggregator or something. So I kind of got on his case a little bit, and then he DM'd me. He's like, "Hey, I'm really sorry. I don't want to offend Ryan Russillo, And I'm like, "No, you're good." All the while, Russillo fucking not happy with the guy. But the point is like, you just got to be careful who you're taking your info from. I can't tell you how many times on this podcast, and we should be more careful, but unless you were making a podcast, you know how this is. Like, on days where there's not much news, you are looking for any news you can get to talk about, something worthwhile to get your Bill Walton on about. And sometimes you'll get desperate, and you'll see something that's, man, that looks believable and true, and like it happened 30 minutes before the podcast. And then you get duped, and all you can do is say, "Hey, I'm sorry, I'm an idiot. Slap me on the wrist. Like, I need to get my news from better aggregators." And so I think that's the hard part now when it comes to like the internet and sports media. Sports media is just a reflection of, the whole landscape at large.
For sure. Mazel tov to Joey and Hayden.
But if I may, there was a question on Reddit, in the spirit of like not having anything to talk about. I was on Reddit.
What if it is Field Yates? What if Field Yates is morning
Kid's going to be a good athlete.
Lyman? Yeah. Right.
Okay. No, but, like, I just got to say this. People are really mad at her. I don't think there's anything really that wrong with it when you frame it in the context of, had she been with Mark Davis's child. Society is all fucked up on this thing. People marry for money all the time, and they do it for like 40 or 50 years. So if it's going to be a lie, just tell me a 5-year lie. That's why I think like Anna Nicole Smith was kind of a hero, because whoever that old guy was that she was posing in bed with, like, he knew what time it was. Like, it's better that she got him at the end of his life than in the middle of it.
Yep.
Right? Like, if you're going to do this move, which happens all the time in society, all the time. You and I both know people, who might not have a great face, but got a great pocketbook situation, and you're like, why?
I thought you were going to say something else. Yeah.
No, but what I'm saying is, this happens all the time. We shouldn't be so mad when some of these women want to care for the elderly.
And that was J. Howard Marshall.
Yeah, Howard Marshall.
He looks great in that picture back in
1954.
Holy shit. This guy was old in 54. Dude, when he was on that bed, pull that picture up with him and Anna Nicole Smith. You can't tell me that he knows exactly what's going on, dude. He doesn't give a shit. I've never seen anybody smile bigger than this guy.
She married an 89-year-old.
So we just need to destigmatize now for like the sons of what's that guy's name?
Howard Marshall.
It can be a little bit more problematic. Like if you're in his family and all of a sudden the will gets changed a little bit, well, like maybe go take care of your dad. Like not in that way, but like nobody had visited him in 3 days. All of a sudden this blonde's in there with 36 Ds. I got to talk to my estate planner.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
I do. You only got 5 years on the clock for Mark Davis, huh?
No, he looks great. I met him in Vegas. I think he's got a lot of time left.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, like, you know, the stigma is older guy, younger woman. We all know what she's doing. Like, hey, it's a free country. There's two parties opting into the agreement. I think the old guy knows what time it is. And what's worse is, like, there's a lot of this happening right under our noses. And we don't ever consider the fact that, like, I think the women that target the geriatrics can stand on a moral high ground over these in-phase for money marriages. You know what I mean?
It's a good take.
Is it?
It's a good take.
Right?
Yeah, it's totally a good take. Maybe they're searching for that father figure too in their lives.
Now, some pool boy after I die, like, I don't think it's okay. You know what I mean?
Well, hold on.
Because
what if she's 67? He's 32.
I don't like it. Because he could take advantage of her. You know?
Okay.
Anna Nicole Smith. No.
The problem is with your kids.
The problem is the kids.
Yeah.
The kids. It's the kids. It's bad either way. It's good. It's good. No, it's good either way.
Yeah,
you know what?
Good either way.
If my wife wants to give all of our money to a pool boy after I'm gone, that's her right.
Yeah.
I'm going to be dead anyways. I'm going to be hanging out with Bill Walton.
Your good take just got even better.
Right?
Yep. Great take.
Okay.
Clip it.
We're talking about Tom Pelissero. No, but honestly, somebody asked on Twitter or on Reddit what the first move you would do if you were an owner would be. And on the topic, I think one of the first moves should be disclose your sexual partners because we need to know who could enter the ownership circle. Because I was immediately thinking about like kind of a Game of Thrones coup kind of situation. Imagine David Tepper knocks up a stripper. Everybody's going to protect that baby like Jon Snow because like he's the heir to the throne, right? Like, so I think disclosing sexual partners would be a really good first step for owners because this could have gone sideways or it could have gone well.
Roger Goodell has to have like an NFL ownership tree in his
like a
office,
Game
like
of
a big
Thrones
board.
looking big board.
Yes, and he's got it. Okay, this team I can swipe to this team.
Yes.
Move it around. Okay, little Johnny's next in line, but if he goes early, then it's going to be a little Timmy.
And fans need to know if, like, say, a Paul Brown is just like a nympho. You know, it's like I don't even know where the lineage could lead.
Mark went to Cal State Chico. Remember Ace?
Yeah, Ace from Chico does good paintings. I like Ace. Okay. The next piece of NFL news, well, it's not news, it's speculation. This Justin Jefferson thing.
New York Giant wide receiver Justin Jefferson.
Man, if Kyle was only in here to gloat over the take that Justin Jefferson could get traded. Listen, why I'm bringing this up is kind of twofold. I think, number one, the Justin Jefferson situation, if you want to understand it, I believe a lot of these players now, like wide receivers or a defensive end, like a Brian Burns or Nick Bosa, more appropriately, because I think Nick's the one who reset the market and then Burns just, his agents used that contract to get him the money he got. But like when Nick Bosa goes to the table, I don't think Nick Bosa is saying, hey, my comp is another defensive end. He wants to be the highest paid non-quarterback on that team. And I think it's the same thing with the Justin Jefferson. It was the same thing with the Tyreek, right? I think that's what he's after. I think, honestly, now if you're looking at Justin Jefferson, he's probably saying, I want to be the highest paid non-quarterback on the team. And so I think that's the holdup. And whether you think he's worth that or not, I think Tyreek's been worth that in Miami because I don't know where they'd be without him, right? But But Pro Football Talk had an interesting theory. Multiple veteran receivers wait to get paid. It's time to wonder whether supply and demand will make the receiver market go the way of the running back market. And Bucky Brooks, who I really like, thinks it's a realistic possibility with this market moving in the 30 million range, because now receivers are going to be getting paid crazy, right? His thought is lots of plug and play guys out of college, guys that are ready right now and are not going to demand $30 million, that we start to see a little bit of the devaluing of the wide receiver position. Now, I don't think you should ever devalue the elite wide receivers, right? Like, because those guys should be, like a Justin Jefferson to me is worth it, right? If you got the quarterback, especially, Justin Jefferson is worth it. If you got a quarterback on a rookie deal, Justin Jefferson's definitely worth it.
Yeah. 48th richest wide receiver at the moment because of the rookie deal.
But I do think this has been happening a long time where like the wide receiver position is not necessarily devalued. I can see what he's saying. Hey, listen, running backs devalued because of health, the outlook of the running back over time, and then also like the position has been less important. Running backs are a lot more interchangeable now, right? Like you see the multi-running back stable kind of thing going on. I think it's different with wide receivers. I think the game has changed to more of a wide receiver league, more of a passing league. Obviously, you need wide receivers. Everybody knows that. But in college, the college game has changed too. So like college wide receivers are more pro ready. I think that's what Bucky's talking about. And you can see this happening all the time in football over the last 20, 25 years, because when you pay a quarterback top dollar, you've got to be able to hit it in the draft, right? Like, and then you start making that calculation where you're like, all right, well, we can't pay Diggs. Brandon Beane, go nail it. It's also happened with Justin Jefferson, right? Like Justin Jefferson was the replacement for Stephon Diggs. They said, we're not going to pay this guy. Let's roll the dice on some young talent. The Eagles going to take Jalen Reagor. We'll take Justin Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck me.
Yeah. Well.
Okay. And same thing, though, on the other side of the coin with A.J. Brown and Treylon Burks.
Yep.
Like when Brandon Cooks didn't get paid in 2018, they struggled at that position for a while. Now, I'm not saying Brandon Cooks is in the echelon of those receivers, but what I am saying is like we see these decisions get made and it working out either way. It's really, this is only a model if you can draft well, right? Like I think the running back position is more of a, hey, we don't necessarily need a great running back, whether through the draft, we're not going to spend the capital on one unless you're Detroit or Atlanta and you take a shot at Bijan or Gibbs. I think it's more like our offense just doesn't run through a special running back. We don't need that piece where it's like we need wide receivers, but the ones out of college are cheaper and possibly more plug and play because of the way the game's change. And so that could affect the market. I could see that affecting the market, but don't get it conflated with teams shedding wide receivers that are expensive because they have the luxury of a great quarterback and because that great quarterback has demanded a lot of the salary cap. Like that's a different situation, right?
And I'm sure this is where you're headed, but the Kansas City Chiefs famously have had a bottom 5 receiver room for several years.
For a couple years now. I mean, all they've done the last couple years without Tyreek Hill is win 2 Super Bowls.
Yep.
So there are examples of this working, and this is a reality in the NFL when you have a high-paid quarterback is like, hey, the Bills, I think they'll be okay. Because we've seen it work. And you say, that was with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Okay, well, Josh is pretty good.
Yep.
Not to say they're going to win 2 Super Bowls the next few years, but, shedding Diggs in an offense where it runs through the tight ends. We heard Brandon Beane talk about it. And, you go out and get Curtis Samuel, who's worked with Joe Brady. You go out and you draft Coleman.
Yeah.
You hope he's a stud. By all accounts, he is. Like, hey, in a year, they could be the proving ground for why you don't pay certain positions when you have an expensive quarterback. The expensive quarterback is expensive for a reason. He's supposed to make things good, right? And then I think what it comes down to is like a lot of bad teams are going to have to make decisions, or good teams with rookie QB deal, quarterbacks. Those are the ones who are left to make those decisions on $30 million receivers.
Yeah. You look at the worst teams in the league at the moment: New England, Carolina, New York Giants, Denver Broncos. You don't have that elite wide receiver. But that's not.
But you also don't have the elite quarterback.
That's what you don't have. That's what matters.
You know, I think you could find way more examples of an elite quarterback winning without an elite wide receiver than an elite quarterback winning with an elite wide receiver in the last 20 years.
Right.
Like I went through it. It's Tyreek Hill a couple times. It's Marvin Harrison and
Reggie Wayne.
And Reggie Wayne in Indy. And forgive me if I'm forgetting anybody, but like, you know, you brought up Demaryius Thomas, God rest his soul. I don't think of him as like in that echelon of wide receiver. Like, I think that was about the defense. You know, I think it was about the defense and experienced quarterback.
Victor Cruz was just almost there. He had good numbers.
A really good receiver, right? He had a big year. You said 1,500 yards that year. That year he was elite, but he's not. I don't think of Victor Cruz like I think of Justin Jefferson or Tyreek Hill or Devontae Adams. Like Aaron Rodgers had Devontae Adams for a few years.
Yeah.
Where's the hardware?
Well, and in Vegas, it hasn't exactly. He hasn't been the difference maker.
Right. So they're not like elite wide receivers are not a panacea. Like it's not like you're just going to all of a sudden be like, oh, your team's good now. You got an elite wide receiver. And I think teams are catching on to that. But I think the reality has always been that like if you have an expensive quarterback in the modern era of football, that's not necessarily something you're going to be after immediately. Like you're going to try to build through the draft. You're not going to necessarily go out and try to pay one.
Yeah. Giants have one of those Super Bowls because of a dime laid perfectly in the hands of Super Mario Manningham.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
Go get yourself some Mario Manninghams to go along with the Plexico.
No question.
Sure, but it doesn't have to be this great percentage of your salary cap. I think that's been.
Did they have Shockey when they won the whole thing?
One of them.
Yeah. But I think that's what this conversation is. Yes, the position could be devalued, but not for the same reasons as running back. And simultaneously, the assessment of how much is being devalued might be skewed by teams not having an appetite. You know?
Yeah. No, I think that's
look at
right.
the Vikings. Fuck, I would sign Justin Jefferson yesterday, but obviously,
what do you think of the report that they were trying to get up to 6 to take Malik Neighbors?
Wouldn't be shocked. I mean, that's kind of like this school of thought, right? Like take a shot at somebody you think's going to be special. He might not be Justin Jefferson, but if the quarterback's pretty good, like we'll be okay, right? But they're kind of taking a gamble on both ends of the deal, because right, you're taking a quarterback who everybody would have to say, man, you were the one team that knew, right? And then you'd have to be replacing your all-world wide receiver at the same time. So I don't know, man. I think it depends on the situation. I don't think it's as serious as like wide receivers aren't going to get paid now. But I do like young guys coming out, like Xavier Worthy for Kansas City. Yeah. MVS, that's a known commodity. I'm not saying he's in that 30 million echelon. He's more of a workman type wide receiver, but he had that straight line speed. What'd they do? They would go out and get the young guy.
Just for fun.
Cheaper, higher ceiling possibly.
Shockey was on the 07 title team. Tight ends in 11. Jake Ballard, Bear Pasco, Travis Beckham.
Crazy, dude.
For the New York Giants.
Crazy.
And the elite wide receivers on that club, Hakeem Nicks, Victor Cruz, Mario Manningham.
Here are the guys that make plays independent of other things happening. Defensive linemen, edge rushers, and corners. Like those offensive tackles, like quarterback, right? Wide receiver, very important position. Some of them are game changers, but there's also a dependency on certain things. Now, with rush, you got to have coverage and that sort of thing, but somebody's literally throwing you the ball. Somebody's literally protecting the guy who's throwing you the ball. You're the third layer of execution.
If you can have a great player out of position, but you can only have one, I think you start at quarterback, right?
Start at quarterback.
And then what's your second position?
Well, if we're doing
non-knower of ball, I'll pick tackle.
Yeah, probably. I like corner.
Okay.
I mean, like obviously you want to protect that investment, but if you're going blue chip, I might go corner.
Okay.
Like if you're going to acquire somebody through free agency or something and you just wave a magic wand, like.
And then edge has to be top 4, right?
Edge is up there.
So that's where the argument starts to take shape when wide receivers down there with running back.
Well, yeah. And that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying they're not like in their purest form, like the the final form of wide receiver, like Tyreek Hill is going to change the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's going to change any game he plays in.
Yep.
But there's only a couple of those guys, you know, and you can make the same argument for pass rushers. There's only a couple Myles Garrett's and TJ Watts, but I think there's more of them that can affect games in a bigger way, independent of the context around them, than wide receivers.
Okay. I'm on board with that.
You know? But I will say this. Half the reason the Vikings were even fucking competitive last year was because of Justin Jefferson.
Yeah. Are you okay with your quarterback?
And the Lions secondary, it felt like, for those last 2 games.
Speaking of, there are only 3 wide receivers here at $30 million. All teams made the playoffs. A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Tyreek Hill at the moment.
Yeah.
Are you okay with your elite quarterback having a bit of a punch?
I am. Patrick Mahomes is not trying to be the best at exercising.
Or maybe just wear, like, one up your size. He's wearing, like, mediums.
But it just goes
at every level.
People who don't care about things like man breasts or a gut or some appearance thing, you know, when you if I put on a t-shirt, I want it to fit good. Like, I don't want it to look, I don't want to see shadows. I don't want to see any bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Mahomes doesn't care. It's because he's an athlete. I'm not an athlete like Mahomes. Mahomes just, it's not about that. He just feels totally comfortable in his own skin, even if he's got a beer gut, because he can throw that football wherever he wants to put it.
It's like Eli Manning.
I did see a picture of Eli Manning shirtless at the beach, the famous one this morning, as I was looking for like the worst bodies in sports. Yeah.
Okay. None taken.
Yeah. Oh, the Giants thing. No, I mean, the guy was great. I would throw Sebastian Janikowski in the conversation, one of the best regular looking pro athletes of all time. They said he partied harder than anybody on the team. There was a porn star that I guess partied with him, and they were like asking, like TMZ was asking her something in an airport, and they were like, athletes. And she's like, let me tell you about one athlete, Sebastian Janikowski. And the guy's like, kicker? But yeah, like he was out of a football movie, and it showed because he never looked like he was an athlete. He just looked like a big Eastern Bloc guy.
Speaking of
what?
Luka Doncic.
Yeah, he really does. He doesn't look like, well, it's not just the paint job. I'm just saying he just doesn't look like, you know, stud NBA wing.
Which he is.
Yeah.
Lead guard.
I'd like to throw 1995 John Kruk in there. White Sox John Kruk.
100%.
Look up John Kruk in 1995.
But what's weird is that baseball players right now are extremely fit.
They're better. They're I don't want to say they have better bodies. They are better looking. There's just no John Kruks out there.
Well, Cecil Fielder, Prince Fielder, David Wells,
Bartolo Colon,
the Panda Guy, Tony Gwynn, my guy Mo Vaughn, Kirby Puckett,
CC.
Back then it was just about hitting the baseball. Now it's about like
Babe Ruth
alive and hitting the baseball.
Right.
Who's Baby Ruth? Is that the line?
No.
The Sandlot line? Close.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is. You're right. All right. You got it.
Okay.
You got it.
And, you know, ultimately, there's one guy that belongs in this conversation, like worst sports bodies, is Tom Brady.
Yeah.
But somehow he has pivoted and made himself a sex symbol.
Yeah.
Is that crazy or what?
See the jet skiing?
Yeah, he looked great.
Oh, my God. Looked great.
Yeah, but that's what money, a nice face, and success does.
Yep.
You know what I mean? The bones were all there. He just looked like shit early. But it's just like how some of these women get hotter as they get older.
Yeah. Like, I think the time's coming for Big Ben Roethlisberger before long.
You think?
He's going to be like Brady out on that jet ski.
Yeah.
He just hasn't turned the corner yet.
He hasn't turned the corner. Just takes him a minute.
It's all there.
Yeah, it's all there. Now, I'll just say this, though, but that's all in it. Like, that's all Tom Brady running at the combine. I've never seen an athlete who's had more of a delta between, like, at one point, they were the laughing stock of anybody with a TV. Like, they were like, who let this IT guy into the combine? He can't even run. His face looks puffy. It looks fat. And then 20 years later, 30 years later, he's like, anybody would fuck him.
Mm-hmm.
Except for us.
Well, speak for yourself. I mean, I don't.
I mean, sometimes I don't. Do women really think Tom Brady's that hot?
I think so.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, I want to talk about Kyle Long. Can we
Okay.
tee that one up, Reed?
Yeah. So Kyle,
latest debate.
yeah, he fired off a tweet yesterday or Sunday that got us thinking. But the tweet said,
"Yeah, it got me thinking."
Who would be more successful, an NFL offense playing defense or an NFL defense playing offense?
Speaking of engagement farming, that was not the exact tweet. The tweet was worded differently.
It was
the tweet was not a question. The tweet was, you could take an NFL starting offense and switch them to defense, and they would play better than a defense would be at offense. First off, notice it's okay, Kyle Rivers. It's kind of like with Austin Rivers. No football players were talking about this. Like, we just weren't. And now we've got offensive guys talking about this, which to me feels like the offensive guys now need a little pat on the back. Well, I'm not going to give it to you, Kyle. You're wrong. And I'm really not being, I don't think I'm being a homer here. Because number one, where are you putting the quarterback?
Well, counterpoint. Who's your quarterback from the other side?
Doesn't matter. We're going to run the ball. And then where's the quarterback? We're on a triple option. Where's the QB?
Safety.
Bro, we are going to find him.
Okay.
We are going to find that quarterback. I guess you can't vary formations. You can't like get nickel or dime. Like he just said, like the 11 on the field.
11 on the field has to be on the field.
And he went as far as saying some guy, and Handsome Rob said all but a few of these QBs would be worthless on defense. So it's already 10 or 11 O-line plus tight end playing coverage against extremely athletic safety and linebacker would get ugly. Would look closer to 60s football, but I'll give it to the D. Handsome and smart Rob. Kyle, I disagree on the all but a few comment. Kyle, show me the quarterbacks that could play defense. I mean, Lamar Jackson, just because Josh Allen's big and tall doesn't mean he can play defense.
Right.
You're doing the NBA thing.
Yeah.
Also, where's your pass rush coming from?
Yeah.
I think that would be the most glaring difference.
Yeah.
The irony here is the whole conversation, I know this, is coming from his belief that he could be like an elite defensive end. He said that on multiple occasions in this room. And usually I go, yeah, well, you never know, Kyle. Bo Allen would be a better guard than Zach Martin would be a defensive lineman.
100%.
It's the easy, no offense.
I'm a
put a big guy in there.
Non-knower of ball. That's what stood out the most to me, except for maybe the center position, which seems to involve a bit more nuance.
I feel like center would be really hard.
Would be hard. Yeah.
Would be hard.
Otherwise,
this whole conversation though, it's just going to look like muddle huddle out there.
Yeah.
Like there's no definitive yes or no. In fact, like the only thing, just basic math tells me that if we have 11 guys that can tackle and play physical, and you have 10, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
You know, you've got like 8% less players.
Right.
You know,
nice.
And
math.
Huh?
Math. Good.
Yeah. So I don't think so. And also like, maybe Tyreek learns to backpedal. I think Tyreek and a couple guys like who are really explosive and athletic, but like a lot of these wide receivers, they're not built to be defensive backs. I know the old joke is like, well, I know where you play defensive back, but it's not just that. So I would say this, Kyle, your coverage has got to be incredible because y'all could not pass rush. That's the thing. Like I could turn a tall defensive tackle into an offensive tackle. It's happened. I've seen it happen. There was a guy for the Eagles that played defensive line he was real tall. He played defensive line in a 3-4. There's a ton of 3-4 guys that could play tackle, right? But show me the tackles that could edge rush. Show me the guys that could, it's kind of akin to the basketball conversation where it's like, okay, you're projecting skill acquirement. You know, like if we were to say, hey, we're athletic, we can go play in the NBA, that'd be false because there's skills that are involved that would keep us from doing it. Same thing would happen. Like guys have been pass rushing their whole lives. And guess what? Your arm length at guard matters on defensive line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's totally different. Kyle, I don't know what you're doing, but like, let's start with the Super Bowl offense, the Chiefs. Where are you putting MVS? It's the best offense in the league. They won the Super Bowl. It's not the best offense in the league, but
without you going through any more names, he's at corner.
MVS.
Yeah.
Oh, his leg's gonna get broken trying to backpedal.
Okay.
Like, there's no way. MVS. I don't know. Rice. I don't know. Haven't seen him run backwards.
Corner.
Yeah, again, it's just like we're just hoping that you know how hard corner is? There are guys that have been playing corner their whole fucking lives. Like the queue for corners in Philly, they went through like 12 of them. None of them could play. They've been playing their whole lives. Some of them got drafted, some of them like, and a lot of them are athletic and fast. Okay. So Rice.
But you've said you're not throwing on these guys. Let's keep going.
We might throw on these guys. We might throw on
Smart
these guys.
not to tip your.
Might throw some screens.
Yeah, good.
Okay. Kelsey doesn't, listen, all due respect to Travis Kelsey, who's one of my favorite people, and he's an incredible athlete, and he's one of the best tight ends to ever play the game, but he doesn't even have a tricep. His tricep looks like my tricep. So where's Travis going to play?
Outside backer.
No.
Okay. All right. Good point.
It's a different thing.
That the middle of the field, like who is going to play at the second level for the offense?
Right.
Like
just
who's going to be there?
Okay, so what are you, an empty?
Yeah.
So if you're an empty, okay, then who are your linebackers?
Right. It's going to be
Travis Kelsey so far.
It's not good.
And a running back maybe.
Okay, if you're in like 11 personnel, who are your linebackers? You're going to be a nickel, just two linebackers. You're going to have Pacheco sitting there beating up the ground, dude. And he's got the mentality to play defense. But Pacheco just doing this shit all day. Like the play's over there. He's like, and Kelsey with no tricep trying to take on an ISO. Like that's not going to happen. You can't just keep him at outside backer unless you're going to run a 3-4. Where are those 4 linebackers? Find me the linebackers. You put Creed Humphrey out there at linebacker.
He'd probably be the best of the bunch. Just of the
play action pass.
Oh yeah.
He'd be stuck in the mud. Okay. So I don't know.
Yeah.
You're welcome to come on the show and discuss this, but I don't know what you're talking about.
All right. Well, who's your quarterback on the other side? Mike Dana.
Who used to play quarterback?
Where would you want to play? Tight end, fullback, left tackle, right tackle. Where are you?
Offense?
Yeah.
None of them.
Well, you have to in this exercise.
Tight end.
Tight end.
Yeah.
Okay.
Catch a lot of balls in the flat.
Yeah.
I don't want to go over the middle of the field.
Yeah.
Fuck that, dude. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What number are you wearing?
Josh Sweat just changed his number to 19. I'm changing mine to 13.
Okay.
That was always my
It's a great number. Yeah. It's a great number. Greed Slinger.
What's CMC going to be Cooper DeJean? Like, are we just assuming here? Like, what's going on? Where the fuck is Kirk Cousins playing?
I mean, can you imagine Phillip Rivers playing anywhere?
Just go through any NFL offense. I will shoot this argument down.
Yeah.
It's not even an argument.
You haven't done the reverse
Failed
yet.
engagement farming. I didn't engage, Kyle.
To be fair, you have not done the reverse yet. You have
No,
not.
but we're not the ones making the claim.
Okay.
That's the point is like, I don't make claims like this because I'm like, hey, I don't have to try to take other people's shine like the NBA players or Kyle Rivers. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Like defensive guys are over here minding our fucking business. It turns out that we're the realest ones in the bunch.
Mm-hmm.
The NBA guys, they're over here talking. Okay, are any football players going to talk? Okay, now the offense is talking. It's not going to happen, dude. No, it ain't going to happen.
Talk to me about this 1961 video of a fan on the field.
Hey, talk to me about this, Kyle. You have never seen a ball carrier until he passes your face. Like, imagine the inverse of that. Like having to shock, put your head in the right gap, make sure he's not going in the other gap.
Doors opening, doors closing.
Doors opening. You looking everywhere. Like, what are you going to do when they run a fucking bootleg? What are you going to do when they run a reverse, bro? They love it, these O-linemen, because they're so smart. Like, that's what they say.
Mm-hmm.
Because they got big books. They got big playbooks. Oh, they're dumb. They're over there just doing. Well, you know why we're dumb? Because athletically, you can't do what we do. Like we're over there. We don't have a lot to worry about because we don't need to complicate things. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
We got the athletes. You guys got to think around everything. You also couldn't deal with defensive line coaches. We keep your coaches. You get our coaches.
A lot of hurt feelings.
Oh, boy. A lot of hurt feelings. They are the most sensitive bunch.
Counterpoint, fan ran out and played effective defense in 1961.
That's true. Did you see the Patriots in 1961? This video went viral yesterday or the day before, where I didn't even know this, but, well, I guess the Patriots didn't know it either. Nobody knew it. They were playing a football game, and they're down there in the red zone with the uprights right there on the 1 yard line. So it's a long time ago. And somebody's trying to throw a pass, and this drunk fucking Boston guy runs
Hero.
Hero, and bats down the pass.
And the game ends.
And nobody says anything.
I mean, he creeps like right behind one of the umpires.
But look how close the fans are, though.
Yeah,
That's
there's
the thing.
It's
There's
like a
no
courtside
bleacher.
seat in basketball.
Yeah, it's like courtside, which made me think,
we need to get back to this.
well, also that like it's not that hard to affect the outcome of a game.
Mm-hmm.
Think about this: if you if you're down a lot of money and the bet's not going well, like I'm sure you get prosecuted for running on the field, but the casino probably have no recourse. They probably just void the bet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like some guy ran on the field. It happens to be me. But like we had a guy at UVA that supposedly tried to trip a guy on the sideline.
Oh yeah,
Doctor.
yeah. Joe Geek.
Yep.
I didn't
And
know.
then who else tripped a guy? There's been a few trippings. Like so, you can do this stuff. Guys running down the sideline, you're sitting at like 20-yard line, fucking everybody's looking at the ball carrier. You just jump the fence and get out there.
Yep. At
Right?
some point, it's worth it.
At some point, it's worth it. In the red zone, it wouldn't be that hard, right? Like in a big moment in the game. What if somebody fucked up the catch, just ran out of the
Basketball.
basketball is way easy.
Shoot down the scoreboard.
Shoot down the scoreboard, just hand check somebody from your courtside seat.
Yep, even better. That's smarter.
Shoot down the fucking scoreboard.
Oh, we're gonna have to find another gym. It's gonna be a long time.
And then in baseball, I think it's pretty easy too. It's like pop fly with everything on the line. Like you got a ton of time to get onto the field.
Yep.
And what do they do then? It's fan interference. So there's recourse, right?
Right.
But I can't really think of a recourse in the NFL. Like I haven't seen this happen. What would the rule be if somebody ran out and fucking tripped Kadarius Toney? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, you can't assume a catch like that, especially when it's Kadarius Toney. Tennis. Now these tennis players are such mental small people
Yeah.
that all you need to do is create a short delay,
Yeah.
and they are totally thrown off.
Really?
I mean, yeah, you're down a set in a break and your
Yeah.
bet's lost. Just go dump Gatorade on the player. Be, I thought it was over. You know?
I had no idea that tennis was like that.
Oh yes, it's
Yes.
momentum turns on a dime, and there are professional tournaments played just down the road. I mean, we could be wagering major
And some
dollars.
people gamble on tennis.
Yes.
In this room.
Some have, and do, and even by being boisterous, you can affect a tennis match. You get into these people's heads.
I'm just saying the NFL needs to look into this because
Monica
you might see a
Seles?
lot of copycat crimes.
Yeah,
You know?
I was joking about the Monica Seles during crosstalk. There, I don't advocate
What
violence.
happened?
Yeah. Do the opposite of advocate.
All right. So the non-sports.
The Home Alone house. Home Alone house is for sale. It's $5.25 million in Winnetka.
I don't know how to say Winnecta.
Yeah, Winnetka, Illinois. Winnekta, Winnecta, Illinois. It's 671 Lincoln Avenue. People are freaking out about this because you know the outside of the house, you know what it looks like, and you remember the inside from sliding down the scene, sliding down the banister, and the big family dinners and the pizza going everywhere. But the inside of this house does not look anything like what the movie portrayed. People say it got massacred. People
Get over it.
An actor has also come out and said, "Yeah, we filmed that on a
In a
freaking
fucking
soundstage."
set.
Yeah.
And I read somebody yesterday was like, yeah, but it was a replica. It's not even the real fucking house. Oh, you filmed the outside of the house. They got a fucking mega church where Shibe Park was. They had World Series games there. Shibe. That's what I said.
Okay, sorry.
They played the first AL night game there. Okay, people were taking the toilets home when they closed that motherfucker. And because you like the movie, you're mad it's not an ugly house anymore?
Well, ugly?
The outside of the house is beautiful. Always has been. But who wants to live in a house that looks like it's 1987?
Okay, but I also don't want to live in this sterile 2024.
Yeah, but a lot of fucking finance bros in Chicago want to live there.
I don't know. Okay, well, sure, but you gotta fix it. I mean, they have
The flooring's a little bit, I mean, that was a good looking house. Now you probably could have updated the wallpaper and stuff. And
I mean, this was like mid '90s, so all this was, in the
yeah. But like, why do you Home Alone people? You buy the house,
right?
Everybody's so fucking mad. Oh, I'm so mad. Pull your money together and buy the house and live there. If you like it so much, why don't you marry it?
And even though we can't say the name of the city, it's well known and a gorgeous house. I'm surprised it's not more expensive.
I think the bigger question is why Kevin McAllister had 6 siblings or whatever. It was what his dad did to afford this house and a first class flights over to what was it, France when they all traveled. That's the bigger question. What did he do that could afford that family?
Human trafficking,
real estate. This Winnetka is just north of Chicago. It's on that lake, that big lake.
No, everybody likes it there.
North of Evanston.
Just get over it. You have the movie. Just watch the fucking movie. You've never been to this house. It's not like they're having tours of the house. People have been living here. You can't knock on the door and go inside and be like, I want to remember what the set was like. Because it's not even the house. But like, hey, they filmed a movie here. Well, they didn't film it here, but they filmed it at a place that looked like it. And I'd like to come in. You've never been able to do that. The only way this is a real place is in your fucking head.
Nice. That's right.
Just enjoy the place in your head.
Yep.
Watch the movie. It's not a big deal.
I mean, this thing is 10 seconds from Lake Michigan. We might want to look into this house.
9,000 square feet, too big for me.